and he's holding other 2 costs from the opponent's team. So there are some games where if he is behind tempo on his own reroll line, he might give up on his own game plan and just play the griefing role, try and lower the expected AVP for all the other players, the reroll players on the opposing team. Maybe finish 8th, but if he drags down another reroll player on the opponent's side from a 3rd to a 6th, his job is done.
Oh, for sure. Certainly from watching French teams across time in previous 4v4 events, they have been extremely vicious in trying to really target out and delete opposing players from the game. But component ambles will open us up here. No more trainer golems, no more all prismatics. We get ourselves a nice sedate start to game 1 of our final series of the day.
Well, not yet, but the series could end up being 3 games. We might still see a Lulu trainer golem come through. The biggest difference for the component anvils is the fact that you get a higher chance of finding best in slot and finding it early, especially for the reroll lines. You have a chance to have a 3-item carry coming to stage 3, which is very, very powerful in terms of stabilizing and taking over the lobby, especially with something like a GP. Talking about GP, on either team, there is a player that has been playing a lot of GP, maybe just off of natural spots are given, maybe off of just trying to force it more often. Potable, 4 games out of 5 have been on GP with a very high AVP as well. And for Flash Wolves, it is YYDM with pretty much half of his games on GP. For now, it is Haruru with a GP start in this game number 1, and Opal with a GP start in the time for Aegis here as well with Midas Touch. So a good GP power-up for just early goal generation.
Yeah, of course, you can't get those stretchy arms all the time, but certainly doubling down on that gold generation could be very powerful indeed. Hopefully this will be a chance for Opal to show us what he's made of.
Great components as well for this GP. Half of a bow, half of a sword, can be half of an Aeon and half of a Rage Blade or a Kraken's Fury. Pretty much impossible to miss with the 2 component ambles he has here as well. We'll wait until the augment, of course, to pop them and then to try and set up his spot. But all in all, looking pretty strong here for Opal.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see him get the opportunity to show exactly what he's made of here. Yeah, and we'll see how things develop over the course of the series, but certainly coming in with some strong momentum, as we will see, of course, the first augment's coming in, so it's gold across the field. We'll see if anyone's going to go for anything spicy on the left-hand side of your screen.
There will be keepers for Opal, which we've seen a few times from our GP players. The only downside to this is, ideally, you want to have a strong econ augment on 2-1 and then double combat power augments for GP. We've seen some keeper boards, even today, I think, from Solus, I believe, with Citadel Gaming, where he was hitting keepers on 2-1, didn't have enough gold to contest, and then just wasn't able to hit GP3. Crystal Gambit +1, I asked, and Potable has delivered. That is my boy. So right away, we might be seeing the attempt at exactly where they finished off to make it to this playoffs against Virtus.pro with the 7 Crystal Gambit game plan in stage 4.
I mean, that's absolutely massive. We've got solo leveling kicking in here from Ironbog as well. Of course, Ironbog came into this tournament with a lot of attention. As much as, of course, that's not necessarily the stats reflecting the individual player skill at all. But he has been going, and taking a lot of the lower finishes.
And solo leveling, we talked about one of the premium augments in this current first patch of set 15. Just incredibly strong, especially if you're able to find a key carry for it. We're seeing it here. Can this Gnar take down the entirety of the board for Potable? I think the answer is going to be yes. And with Potable, despite playing Crystal Gambits, usually in TFT, the cash out trade, you want to lose from 2-1 and just continue losing all the way to stage 4. Then you have a massive comeback turn where you cash out and you get incredibly strong. Crystal Gambit's a little bit different. You do ideally probably want to save HP the first 4 fights. If you can win every single fight in stage 2 until your double down round, that's fantastic. So Potable will try and play strongest board or strong-ish board in stage 2.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I really love the idea of being able to turn around the economy trade that way. We do see, of course, speaking of economy, there is with the infamous treasure hunt, which, of course, has been massively warping across so many of our games.
Solo leveling is very strong. Treasure Hunt, I would say, is equally as strong, or maybe even stronger with how it scales into the lake. And we just saw it from Salpimi in that last game as well. Huge prio on this golden augment from pretty much every single team and player. And I'm already liking the composition that we're seeing from Aegis. We have a win-out potential player with Crystal Gambit for Potable, HP savers with the reroll players with GP, Opal, and Lides on Jhin, and then Gobo to find out. I assume Gobo will be leaning into that fast 8 AP spot with either Sorks or Prodigies.
So would you say overall, in terms of what you generally like to see from team compositions, is to have those 2 players who are trying to go for the really high end and the 2 which are generally going for more reroll mid-game?
It's the perfect setup, in my opinion, and it's also the setup where you're leading into the strongest reroll lines. You're leading into it from very strong gold augments. We saw with Kesman's interview with Evos, he mentioned, hey, we had a good game plan, but the augments were not quite there. We lowered a bit here and there, but for Aegis, I think they have to be very, very happy. And we're seeing exactly that. Gobo is leaning into the AP line, still open to both Prodigies and Sorcerers with that mixed front line and back line that kind of tailors to both comps. And it will have to probably depend on what we're seeing from the opposing side and if Gobo wants to play a little bit of griefing duty as well.
Oh, sure. Well, again, we mentioned French teams very quick to pick up. I mean, I think there's a good chance to bring in Azeni. It was mentioned briefly before, but of course, the French history in competitive TFT, particularly the LAN history, to see the GP players up against each other. They've just got so many more reps being playing in the live environment, but we'll see how these GPs face up against each other.
And Kebaba, we're seeing here, most likely going to be that contesting player on the Fast 8 AP line. Shocker, Counterfeit, considering that we just mentioned at the start of this game that he has been the designated Sorc player across this tournament, 4 out of 7 games. Well, I think this will be a 5th because with a Shojin Slam, you're not playing into Yuumi Prodigies because you already have the mana region for the trait itself. So most likely Kebaba will be once again in his comfort zone. Can he continue this absolute tear on this comp where he has a 2.7 AVP across these 7 games?
I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that level of success, isn't it? You at least know that one part of your game plan is completely locked down and solid and say, you know, we can rely on this. We can build an entire game around Kebaba.
Kebaba picks up another glove, so great for the Striker's Flail Jewel Gauntlet combo. Opal, unfortunately, obviously with Keepers, he's playing for a win streak in Stage 2, and the bow was just taken away by Haruru on the 3rd pick. I think strategically so, understanding that Opal does need at least one more bow to try and finish off that Rage Blade onto Gangplank. YYDM says, Kebaba, let me play Karma, man. I have a Karma in my shop. It's Stage 2. It's a really good spot to play it.
I mean,
and he's still open. He has time skip and he hasn't opened his canvas. I think this might be a pivot, but what does Kebaba play now with Shojin? I mean, it's a consideration at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's really interesting to see if we can see the Flash Rolls kind of expand themselves out, and perhaps that's what we'll be seeing here from Aegis as well. Throwing in a different player up towards the top. We certainly know there's enough raw power there. Opal, that player in question right now, but Aegis, we'll see if he's be able to get through. I imagine he's pretty surprised to see the Karma right now facing him off.
So with this Gunblade Slam, I think that YYDM might actually be playing for Yuumi and just using the Karma obviously as a very strong 4-cost AP carry for stages 2 and 3. If that is the case, I have to say, Kebaba probably has a lot of aura and a lot of relevance on this team. He is saying, no, that is my spot. Please go play something else.
Well, let's take a quick look as we come close to the end of Stage 2 then, as to how the land is lying. Gobuster, of course, is ruling the roost, the 4-round win streak at the top, but Kebaba down at the bottom here.
Maybe they'll trade. There is a Leona now. He says, okay, I'll play Prodigies. Can I send you my Shojin as well, just in case then? That would be a good trade.
No, I think, you know, incoming auction house, hopefully. But, I mean, right now at least, Flash Roll's managing to control things at the bottom, but notably no actual loss streaks in place for them. So Gobuster is currently, you know, really controlling a lot of ground.
And this means more than it would if this was any other player. The fact that it's Gobo, I think the best thing that can happen in a 4v4 setting is for your Fast 8 player who's playing into Sorcs or Yuumi to be able to play it from a high tempo spot, because you no longer have to do this desperate roll to 0 on 4-1 and try and hit anything to stabilize and not die right away. You have maybe an HP lead, you're at 70, 60 HP coming to stage 4, and this allows you to greed a little bit more and to overall feel less pressure as a team because your weak link is not about to die. So really good news for Aegis that Gobo is looking this strong.
Yeah, and of course we saw that before from other EMEA team, and Mao's having that problem with Salvi, who was in a very similar kind of spot. Gobo holds on to the win streak, so things are looking pretty good so far. I mean, Aegis, you know, they're all in the top 5 coming out of stage 2.
Ironbog soul leveling setup has not looked perfect. He has, I assume, been killing units because there's a lot of burst damage coming from this NAR2 soul leveling setup, but obviously we're seeing there 2 loss streaks, so has not been clearing out every board, has not been maximizing the value he gets from this soul leveling. One more augment to touch on before we move into stage 3. Aim for the top from Kebaba. If you ask any S-tier player in TFT, is this the strongest augment in the game? They'll probably say no. But is this a very strong augment in 4v4? Their answer would change radically.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have information on who you're playing And this information is invaluable in 4v4. This could be the difference between finishing in the top 4 and winning the entire thing or not, depending on how you know how to take off items or not. So relevant, the information advantage that Flash Wolves will have in stage 4 especially.
Yeah, eliminating potential matchups feels honestly deeply unfair, especially once you start to get in some of these late games where even a small amount of the positioning advantage could completely swing things. Haru, though, is up towards the top, the Gangplank player, up to 4 duelists now. We'll see how he does with Epoch, managing to keep him a little bit ahead of the curve. Has been slamming items so far, but economically, definitely on the lower end.
We mentioned the contrast between Opal and Haru, the two GP players. Opal played more for a win streak, had keepers, has more combat power, but we're seeing there the advantage in econ from Haru, especially in rolling first. Thanks to the Epoch, you're able to roll right away on 3-1, where Opal will have to roll now on 3-2 to maximize the even econ threshold that he can hit on the 3-2 round.
I do want to bring in a point you made before about Partabol with the Crystal Gambit. It looks like in this case, while he hasn't lost a ton of HP, he is on a 4-round loss streak, so it looks like he will get the benefit of the Crystal Gambit early.
70 gold to roll. We're seeing raining gold picked up and has been cashed in by Opal's little legend. And what can he translate to? So the econ and the combat power have switched places, but still we're seeing an econ injection for Opal here. At the very least, he has to roll for a GP2, has found it while staying ideally here above 30 gold, maybe printing some extra gold from GP to get there.
And Haru also took Raining Gold at exactly the same time. Gosh, sometimes, David, it's just like looking in a mirror for these Gangplank players.
Some players check meta tier list to see what augment to pick. Haru maybe just checks his opponent's board. He said, oh, Raining Gold? All right, say no more.
Yeah, I've never played Gangplank before.
I'll lock it in as well.
Just look over here. So it does mean, we've kind of got the doubling down. I'm sure you mentioned it tons of times before. The Gangplank income and now the Raining Gold income as well. So the race to Gangplank 3 is fully on, as we would have expected in pretty much every other game we've seen me played. They will go face to face against each other. Right now, neither of them with a huge advantage, but the slammed Edge of Night, the 3 items on the Gangplank, I think might just
better
swing
positioning,
it.
better scaling, better. Yeah, the Kraken's Fury's killing here as well. Edge of Night will proc. Does that buy enough time for Haru's GP? It doesn't. So the mirror match goes in favor of Opal. And more importantly, the comparison here is 2 econ for Haru, 1 econ, 1 combat power for Opal. If both players end up hitting the exact same board, the exact same 3-star GP upgrade, then this could be the difference maker, right? Coming into stage 4 and 5.
Oh yeah, well, we certainly know it's been a classic throughout pretty much all of TFT that the keepers with those melee characters. Jekko and Lyris, and of course, we've got the treasure hunt, which is ticking away nicely, and we're going to be seeing the Juggernaut Jin board, or Mondo Jin board, coming together very well indeed.
We haven't seen much of, exactly this one. Thank you, observers. Ironbog's board coming into this stage 3. He is going to be, of course, on that solo leveling Nard. We've passed the time where solo leveling matters, and with this itemization, I have to imagine that Ironbog might be trying to play for either all-out Cassante, perfect items, or the more off-meta and the more peculiar Volibear carry alongside the rest of the Edgelords, but he does pick up a Sniper's Focus here as well.
I was going to say, in terms of looking at comps these teams have been sort of differentiating themselves on, certainly for Flash Wolves, I believe they're the only team to have brought out Edge Volibear more than once, and they've actually got a decent record on it, unlike the other team that has done the same. So I'd love to see that coming in here if that's on the cards.
I do wonder if this could ever be a Soul Fighter game. Well, with Sniper's Focus on the Gwen and obviously the direct AD items onto Samira, maybe a dual carry setup in the late game with something like a Volibear or maybe a Yone, but he's kind of weak in the current meta. There's a Samira going to be on the carousel here, and I think it is going to be first pick for Ironbog. He seems not to be interested. It will be a Kali instead, so maybe deciding at this point in time with this extra 4-cost pickup, while also denying what looks like a sword that Potable wanted, so maybe forced to make that pick instead.
Yes, of course, we've got to remember, keep a close eye out on the bottom of the screen. You can see all the boards around the place developing. Looks like Potable hasn't managed to get to 5 Crystal Gam as of yet to start things off really rolling. I think, again, as we noted before, has been sitting back a little bit more rather than trying to rush up to 5 Crystal Gambit where he can start benefiting. But there's the cash out. This frees him up to get much more aggressive.
And this, again, is going to be one big high roll or low roll decides the fate of this outcome. This is why it's a bit of a gamble. There are, of course, fallback plans, but the real kicker here is, on my level 8 roll down, on for 1, do I find a Zyra? If I do, you have 7 Crystal Gambit, which I believe is a bit overtuned for this patch. 35% damage and 500 HP on all Crystal Gambit units. By so much time for Ashe to scale with her Rage Blade. We're seeing here the itemization set up already for the Ashe. And if you don't find a Zyra, you're stuck on 5 Crystal Gambit. What do you do then? Aegis in that last group stage match against VP, they traded a lot of their lives to keep Virtus alive, to let him to finally find that Zyra later on, and then win the entire game. So we'll see if that same thing happens in this game 4.
I think that does work very well as a kind of a one-player representation of what teams are trying to do overall in the game, with making these kind of sacrificial plays to bring their strongest parts of the composition online. In this case, Paderborn looks like won't be able to turn into any kind of winning as of yet, but at least it's not a harsh loss. Still though, a long way to go for Paderborn, down to 50 HP, drawing even with Ironbog.
The opposing side, we saw the Unceasing Juggernaut Augment picked up for Lides, so very good setup for his Mundo Jin reroll. Level 7, 40 gold for Paderborn. Opening himself up to the 1% chance at finding a Zyra in his shops now for this last round coming into the Krugs. If it ends up happening, I'm sorry, I'm not the script writer here. It's all a miracle.
It's just foreshadowing, it's fine.
I'm just keeping that option open for the viewers to get excited for, just in case that 1%. But the biggest thing, as I mentioned, will be that roll down on 4-1.
No, absolutely. We'll keep a close eye out once that comes in the immediate future. Opal, though, again, the player we've said before has been kind of taking some of the L's for the squad to make sure they can get ahead. Seems to be getting his moment in the sun. The 5-round win streak, the Gangplank board is looking very good indeed. As you said, giving up some economic power in exchange for early power, but the itemization is very good. No Gwyn's Rage Blade, but a little bit more healing.
Maybe on an awkward side here, once Jin takes on his target, he could lock onto the GP. We'll see if the Senna damage helps out when she's moved up now. But the biggest thing to mention, Opal has pre-leveled essentially to level 7. He is not rolling on 6. He only has 3 copies of GP, using this as a tempo option to either roll further on level 7 and try and hit both the Yasuo and the GP, which is behind on Econ compared to Haruru, or pivot into something like All Out Cassante maybe with these items and get out of Mentor altogether, which we saw from Weibo Gaming that last game of the 3rd series.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly likes the reigning gold in that kind of respect as well to give more of an economic float going forward. So Opal won't carry forward his win streak to the end of stage 3, but still has made a pretty solid run so far. Gobo, I mean, we said before, Aegis was up towards the top, still coming out of stage 3. 3 Aegis members in the top 3.
We know how important HP preservation is. We'll see if this HP that has been saved by 3 members can be traded to Paderborn, essentially kind of an IV transfer across all of stage 4 to keep him alive and kicking. He is the more experienced player on this team, so it would make some sense. One thing to mention though, very little gold though for Paderborn. I think it must be a 4-2 roll down. I don't think he has the gold to stabilize this this game plan on 4-1.
I mean, you know, it all seems to make sense and sort of fit into place so far. That Paderborn will be moving forward, as you said. You know, the original member of the Aegis team, who of course has been playing on the squad for a very, very long time. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on from the Flash Rule side of things, because we spent a lot of time talking about Aegis so far. Overall, game plan-wise, what are you liking, what are you not liking?
Ironbog rolling down now for all-out Cassante, but no, has pivoted, sold the Akalis, is now moving on to the Volibear, maybe understanding that the sniper focus would not be as strong on Akali. I think he's maybe thinking about moving to Soul Fighters as well. He is holding some of those units on the board with the Nathiri and the sets. We'll see where that ends up going. Ironbog, he is known as this 4-cost flex creative mastermind, someone like Bintum from T1, very similar playstyle individually, maybe trying to pull out that experience in this game plan as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the 4v4 format, just having that extra little bag of tricks you can call upon and do what the team needs, not even necessarily what's best for you at that time. Could mean everything, as Gobo will soak a loss up to the top side, giving up a small win streak.
Haruru has also pushed 7 on GP, so both players are not rolling on 6. They're playing more of a tempo version of GP reroll. Gobo is the player to potentially look at now as he rolls down on his Sork board. We'll see what he ends up hitting. Opal, a big win yet again against Paderborn in this case, unfortunately. Prismatic augments all around. See what the options will be, and this is going to be invested for Paderborn. He has the gold, he has the power already with the Crystal Gambit game plan. As long as he hits a Zyra, he's good to go. Finds a Lee Sin, has 50 gold still to roll on 8. An APM check for the French player on the right side. Another player from Aegis, Gobosir, trying to roll for Karma, but surprise, surprise, it's only 1 copy of Karma. He's found 4 pieces that are important for the Prodigy game plan. 2 Yumi's, a Leona, and a Seraphine. Does he decide to pivot? And for Paderborn,
There's no
hasn't
Zyra.
found the Zyra, so the roll down's not really looking ideal. Potable has wasted his entire prismatic augment in hopes of finding a Zyra and has low rolled.
I mean, the Twisted Fate is something. It's just a way to tick in a few more resources that way. But yeah, it does not look good. I mean, if you're trying to build your game plan around, we've at least got the 5 Crystal Gambits, so if Potable can start to land out some hurt, doesn't need to necessarily win the rounds, just get some kills in that will hopefully restart his economy and bring him back into this.
That's some BM from our production, putting up 909 Zyras left in the pool, but not a single one has been hit by Potable. We'll see if the next few shops maybe can give him that ticket to success. Just one copy of Zyra is really a make-or-break moment for his game plan.
Well, I mean, right now, of course, he is towards the bottom end, so hopefully, well, we'll say, we've got the carousel coming up, so maybe there'll be a chance to move in there. Of course, Kabao is in a similar position, keeping his loss streak intact, but he is down to 23 HP, so needs to be a little bit careful.
There's Ironbog's flex game plan. Volibear 2 perfect items. Braum for Luchador online. We've picked up a Call to Chaos Golem, a blast from the past, well, just from last set maybe. And we're also seeing this Yasuo from Ironbog. It was exactly YYDM who, I think for me at least, showed me how strong triple snipers focused Yasuo was in the mentor comp. Taking a page out of his teammate's book, playing this Yasuo with snipers focus.
I'm intrigued to see how this goes. As we said, certainly seeing the Volibear as a much bigger part of the playbook here on the Flash Rolls than we've seen from many others. On the other side, Kabao has found the Gwen. It's no range extension, but it looks like a decent enough item set up. The front line, though, is no good. That's a big loss from a teammate.
The wrong time to get strong. Kabao, the Sorcerer player with a 2.7 AVP, now down to his last life, despite hitting a pretty strong board and that Radiant Children for the Karma and the Fusion Dance on the Gwen. He's on 1 life, and there's some strong players in this lobby, especially Potable. If he finds a Zyra on this carousel, there is a Zyra. Is it on his side is a big question.
It's not.
And does someone else, and yeah, Kebaba has priority, right? Kebaba's racing towards a Zyra. He's going to make it in time. YYDM also has first prio. Potable is only going to be second pick. So the Zyra denied by Flash Wolves. He'll have to find it his own way.
Yeah, I mean, you had to know that was going to be a 50-50 of that happening, even if Zyra showed up on the carousel at all. So Potable, to be fair, over the last couple of rounds, has been getting some wins in, has been starting to get the 5 Crystal Gambit, unit kill version of the trait up and running again to keep his economy intact. You can see on the bottom, Potable has also got a decent unit setup going, but let's check him with Kabao, because as you said, down to 1 life. This, if he goes out on 8th here, this will be his worst performance of the entire tournament by far.
Both of the AP players from Flash Wolves are missing their key upgrades. Pair of Karmas for Kebaba, pair of Yumis for YYDM, and the Leona 1 not even paired up. So the roll downs, I don't think they've been good for any player except for maybe Ironbog, rewarded for playing off meta, found his Volibear too early. Gobo is still carrying a Lucian with a Yumi 2 on the bench, so he is now sacrificing his HP to grief the rest of the Fast 8 players, hoping his time in the spotlight comes in later in Stage 5.
Yeah, I'd love to see it again, the heavy griefing going on. Yeah, but Kabao is down to his last life, and oh my gosh, Potable shows some mercy, but eliminates Kabao. He goes from being the top to the bottom.
And Potable now has 2 Crystal Gambit emblems, so he has 7 Crystal Gambit without the Zyra, I believe off of his loot cash out that he was able to get just recently. And this is the difference maker. His comp, despite not finding the Zyra, is now strong enough with 7 Crystal Gambit. The strength does not come from Zyra herself, although she's a great unit. It's more from the hitting the trait spike. Kebaba, the hero of Flash Wolves, down for the count in this first game.
Yeah, that is absolutely wild. Of all the things I would have thought could have happened in this game, I thought we were going to be going to the very tail end and seeing AEGIS having to battle Kabao at the top of the mountain. Instead, very different. Yeah, Potable, he's got the... he's got the great setup here that hopefully can take him a lot further. Oh, no, I think it's
a shadow clone.
We got baited by the clone.
I just realized now. It is 5 Crystal Gambit, but it was still strong enough with just the upgrades on Cassante and Jarvan and the Ashe with the Radiant Last Whisper. So I take it all back. Zyra still needed. Zyra, please come back. We're sorry. But Potable, a very dominating win. This is what Elite did as well. He was only on 5 Crystal Gambit in Stage 4 and still managed to find stability, which is, I think, one of the riskier things to do with this Crystal Gambit line.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's such a huge buff there. Even just for the HP alone, makes such a big wall for the rest of the units. But up against Gobister, who is happy enough to take the L, will fall down to approximately the same HP as Potable. again, Aegis, they are still maintaining a huge presence up in the top 4.
And this mostly comes from Lides, who was able to find a Radiant Refractor on 4-2 into a Mundo with a D-Claw. And do you know what kind of comps most of the Fast 8 players from Flash Wars are playing? It's AP comps. Radiant D-Claw makes Mundo 3 pretty much unkillable, especially with Unceasing as that second augment pickup for the Juggernauts in that Mundo Gen Cup. I mean, Heavyweight Emblem as well. This is a very scary setup. It's only a Mundo 2, actually. I take it back. So he's still unkillable, probably.
Oh yeah, no, we've had the story told again and again, but oh my gosh, I mean, certainly this first game of the series, again, this is for a spot in the semi-finals. This whole series overall, this is only game 1, but right now, Aegis are looking very, very good as Haruru will find the Kabuko 3, but I mean, right now on a 4-round loss streak, running out of cash, we'll be able to get at least a Yone in for a little bit more presence, but I don't know if it's going to be enough.
We're seeing from Haruru the tempo game plan with double econ into a very strong combat augment with Bronze for Life. Is it going to be enough? It's only going to be a GP2. We've given up on the GP3 game plan, only 4 GPs for now, and we're already level 8 with no gold to roll. YYDM also on his last life, also on Leona 1. Is this going to be strong enough against Potible's 5 Crystal Gambit board?
I mean, yeah, with the Crystal Gambit Emblem, we've got Twisted Fate in the back, we've got a good double carry set up. And we can see that the Jarvan just creates so much space. It's looking like we're going to be seeing another member of the Flash Wolves put down. And Haruru is only doing slightly better above.
Dominant showcase from Aegis in this game number 1. We're seeing now an even scarier setup. The Indomitable Heavyweight Emblem Radiant D-Claw from this Mundo, who is all by himself against a lot of mad sorcerers, and he's still able to hang on for a very long time as a 2-star beater.
Yes, that's absolutely wild. So Potable, gets us up a little bit more. We're still keeping our eyes peeled. I think we're going to go up to level 9 for the better odds of finally finding that Zyra. Not a ton, but hopefully his patience will be rewarded.
TF2 would also be big. There's a Lee Sin, there's an Ashe. You want to save your gold for the roll downs here. Maybe looking at trying to find an Ashe 3, but no, probably going to give up on that chance. Because Zyra is a more important power spike. Hasn't found it yet, but doesn't maybe need it. He's been win streaking ever since he was been able to find this TF and find these upgrades as well.
Yeah, I mean, seems to be working very well. We've even got a Strategist Emblem to make sure the front lines is a little bit beefier. Of course, Liris talked about much earlier on in the game. The rest of Aegis more than happy to create as much space as possible for Potable to get himself fully online, but right now, for the Aegis side of things, it seems like they've kind of plotted in advance of what they actually need overall, because the whole team has been pulling together towards victory.
Potable, without even a Zyra being this strong, it makes it seem to me that he is the clear win-out player here in the lobby. We're seeing the Mundos held by Haruru. Can he actually hold here? Does he need to maybe use this gold to inject into his own economy to try and save some placements, to maybe try and outplay Gobo? I mean, look at the HP totals, right? I think he has to sell the Mundos, because the moment someone else from Flash Wolf goes out in the bottom 4, the match is instantly over. It doesn't matter if he can deny a Mundo 3 or not. Haruru has to think about his own game plan. He has to get any bit stronger now, and is still holding 3 Mundos. Yeah,
I mean, the Gangplank is still set up there, the Gangplank 2, as we've got 2-star 5 costs dropping in. Oh my gosh, it doesn't seem like life is long. I mean, Ironborg at least has been able to get the big performance out of this game, but Haruru, we're keeping an eye close on here, because playing from the top of your screen, at least this time the Gangplank does get into the back line. Some echoes of what we saw before, and will clear the board this time. But it's still very, very close towards the end.
The Swain hangs on for Gobo, and that's a clap, that's a cheer, that's a little bit of drink of water, staying hydrated, because right now, Aegis has taken over this game number 1. The match is over. 3 players from Flash Wolves knocked out in the bottom 3 places. So dominant, blowout, victory. We thought there would be even parity, but in the first game, it is all done and dusted.
Yeah, and for Flash Wolves, they're going to need to reset. We're going to see a mini version, hopefully, from them, what we saw from the Twisted Minds experience. They lost the first series, then came back even stronger and managed to completely crush the other way. But honestly, I'm liking everything we saw from Aegis in this game. As I said, it felt like their plots and plans were excessive for what they needed overall. They didn't just win by an inch, they won by a mile.
The Crystal Gambit game from Potable was absolutely fantastic. Lides and Opal holding down the HP fort with the rerolls was also pivotal in game number 3, but we'll hear more from the analyst desk as they break down this dominant game number 1 from Aegis.
Performance. Aegis gets onto this main stage and they shine just as brightly as they did in that upper bracket.
Yeah, they looked incredible in this one. I think, once again, we're seeing just kind of a win in line selection here with the amount of HP preservation, while on the other side, there's so much of these level 8 roll downs and getting punished by the reroll compositions.
I mean, I have to glaze the AEGIS. A masterfully executed game plan where Lyres, Opal, and Gobo were enabling pretty much Paddeball playing the Crystal Gambit. Didn't hit the Zyra, picked up, invested. On average, you should be hitting there. He didn't, and he still managed to stabilize due to the fact that the whole Flash Wolves that were trying to go fast 8, due to the fact they didn't find any stabilization during stage 2, stage 3, and they missed their roll down, which was pretty much the nail to the coffin.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it is kind of the Prodigy plus Sorks roll down by one team on level 8. This is the 3rd time today that we've seen this fail miserably, and I think more and more I'm liking this less and less and hoping that teams will stay away from that line specifically if they can avoid it. Sometimes that's just the spot and you have to do it, but I think the game plan of being a little bit more aggressive on the rerolling and avoiding too many level 8 players has been very important in these quarterfinals.
I mean, just the case of not having a proper opener from the Flash Wolves. Sometimes you are forced into the spot, as you mentioned, and yeah, you have to just pull all your eggs to one basket, and yeah, it's just sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Evos, this is that. Fortunately for Flash Wolves, Evos already home. This is the game that they do drop. And the thing is that we've seen from Flash Wolves, specifically Kaza, is when they went up against Twisted Minds, it didn't go their way. They learned a lot from that series, and they were really good at bouncing back from that loss and being able to really control this lower bracket that they were coming through. That's my expectation from them as well for the next match. But when it comes to how they've played this time and the match coming up, what adaptability and changes are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, if it's not just they were forced 100% into that Prodigy spot, I'd like to see a little bit better line selection. However, what I think was a bright spot for them has been this Volibear. It's very uncontested. They've had a very good average placement with it, and they're the only team that's really playing it. So I think having some strategies like that in their back pocket is still good. The question is could that just be all-out Cassante like we see from Weibo? And with the items, yes. However, Cassante is a much more contested unit. I'm just hoping that we continue to see the good line selection that we saw from Flash Wolves yesterday, and that might be able to turn things around.
The big downside of the AD flex is it is either Cassante or the Volibear. It requires pretty much 3 combat arguments, where if you angle towards the Battle Academia, Prodigy, or you go towards the Sork, you can just do it on the back of the Econ arguments, and still you're gonna be stable once you hit, which is not the case necessarily for the AD, where we've seen also Ashe being as a flex carry for those comps in this game, even though Paddeball didn't hit. It was essentially flex AD just on the back on the Ashe 2.
Yeah, it worked out for Paddeball. I think that was the big thing. You know, you mentioned he missed the Zyra, but with all that gold, he was actually able to find a phenomenal front line to stabilize around the Ashe carry, and that still was able to do enough, especially because, as we mentioned, Flash Wolves just missed all these roll downs. I mean, there's really nothing more to say about that for the Flash Wolves side of things. They could not get anything together, and it is still a testament to the amount of pressure that is put onto them by the rerolls and by the setups that were happening from Aegis. They made it so there's no time, there's no room for error. If you miss the roll down, the game is over.
Yeah, but then from the Flash Wolves as well, after this loss, which, as you mentioned, it was just a little bit when it came to that roll down, we're expecting them to reset here mentally. We're expecting them to be able to come back into this match too and equalize the playing field. We've heard a lot of players go like, oh, it is, you know, when we're looking at this, it's a best of 3. The sample size may be a little bit smaller, but Flash Wolves, this is their only chance.
I mean, I just hope we're gonna see the Flash Wolves, as we've seen yesterday, 2 days ago, keeping their mind to their strategy. We've seen greedy Flash Wolves. Greedy Flash Wolves was working for them. We've seen the greedy Flash Wolves again, but this time they missed. And it's just a matter if they're gonna try to deviate from the strategy. And if you do not stick to your strategy, if you do something you didn't test, you didn't practice, it might be even worse. So just going again with what you know might be the best strategy for them.
Yeah, I think I do agree with Alan. I think the greedy strategies have been getting punished today, right? We saw it with Citadel. They were also playing a lot more around level 8, and they were dominating with it, but coming up against T1, they kind of got obliterated going for that same strategy due to missing and it being too much HP. But Flash Wolves, if that was what was working for them, it is sometimes better to just stick to your guns, hope that you're going to hit, and then from there, you should be able to take the win.
After this first performance here, do we still think it's going to be a 2-1?
I think so. I think Flash Wolves are still a very strong team. I think they have the capacity to bounce back. If they do stick to their guns, hey, they low rolled a little bit this time. Maybe they'll high roll in the next game and they'll get there. But I think overall, Aegis is still looking like the better team. I'm very much sticking to Aegis winning the series. I do think Flash Wolves is capable of taking a game.
I mean, I'll just keep it short. Sometimes you gotta hit. And the last game, they didn't. So to average out, the next game, they should.
Well, that does mean that this next game is pretty much do or die for both of these teams. Specifically, however, for Flash Wolves, because they are one game down. This is the best of 3 with their key on the line. They've proven so worthy when it comes to their run in this lower bracket, but they need to be able to replicate that success here against AEGIS if they want to stay in the competition. And that's going to come up after the break.
So, Hube, did you see the posts over on social media this week?
Which one?
The one from the official Polish one with Frodan.
Ah, yeah,
yes?
Frodan said,
Yes?
Polska got
Golom!
home! Amazing, yeah, Polska got home. I got the explanation from Panda and
Okay.
from Alan. It means, there's like a meme, like Mountain of Poland, but it
Okay.
means like go Poland, like go for the team,
yes.
and they celebrate every time they
Go
win.
for victory.
Yeah,
go for victory. And that's what Kesman was celebrating as well. I mean, EVOS has been performing so well here at the Esports World Cup.
Yeah, not making a win and not advancing to a semi-final, but did amazing. And of course, he also made the post, Kesman, saying TFT is fun with the hearts. And I've asked pro player, why do you play TFT so much? And the answer is always the same. It's just fun.
We all love TFT here at the Esports World Cup.
Citadel is out in semifinals. They did amazing.
Yes.
And there's also a tweet showing that. Do you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it from Solus saying that we'll get them next year. I think
And-
this shows the confidence that they have for next year to see if they can come back and try and win the whole thing.
Yeah, I want to see it happen. They improved so much, zero ego, and that's exactly what you want to see in 4v4. In 4v4, and especially in TFT, you have to have 2 things. The first thing is talent.
And the second thing is love.
Bring the thunder, ride it faster, burn it brighter, and in the flash you'll be left to wonder. Push
Welcome back, one and all, to Teamfight Tactics of the Esports World Cup. The last hope of EMEA, AEGIS, have taken the first victory against the Flash Wolves for a space in the semi-finals, but this best of three is far from done, David. We've still potentially got 2 games to go.
I'm a little bit worried because there seems to be a curse that has been brewing across the day. The quarterfinal curse, the 2-0 stomps. Every single series today has ended with a 2-0 win. Yesterday, the opposite. All of the decider matches in the group stage went to 3 series, except for one, the Flash Wolves sweep of Twisted Minds in series number 3. I'm a little bit worried for Flash Wolves. They're the ones that now have to fight back. They're the ones that now have to try and have a comeback game 2 and maybe change some of their game plans. Kebaba, we saw it there. I think he's been high rolling a little bit in terms of his historic game plans. Now finally falters, and we see how that ends up being a domino effect for the rest of the team. When the player that you expect to go first goes 8th, how do you recover? On the flip side, I want to see more of what we saw from Ironbog in that game 1. Creative TFT, off-meta 4-cost roll down with Boulevard as a carry, which he was the most stable player for Flash Wolves in that stage 4. He went from being the worst AVP player to maybe the hero in that game 1. Let's see more of that from him. Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to take the victories where we can here for the Flash Wolves, but I mean, even if they can sort of start moving back in the direction they were doing before, even if it's just bringing Kebab back into the mix, you know, if he has a good game, Ironbog has a good game, suddenly you've got something competitive. But from Aegis' side of things, of course, for anyone who missed game 1, it was very, very dominant from their side of things. We knew, of course, the French squad are very, very good in the LAN environment, in the 4v4 environment, but they were able to layer their strategy together. But ultimately, they didn't need every piece of that strategy even to win.
And what a strategy it was from Potable in particular. Crystal Gambit. I am surprised that more teams have not found a way to make this work in 4v4. Of course, it's risky. HP matters so much more. But a cash-out trait in TFT is synonymous with high skill and high reward. We've seen pretty much every single one of these traits been broken in the past with Underground, with Heartsteel, with Chemtech. Always so strong in the right hands. In this tournament, we haven't really seen it much from most of the teams. In some cases, we think, okay, it relies on a high roll, on finding a Zyra on stage 8, on stage 4, on level 8. Is that worth the risk? But even in this game from Potable, 5 Crystal Gambit, he still managed to stabilize and was the pillar for stage 4 for Aegis.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you're having 3 teammates around you to cushion that is absolutely going to make that go easier. But I do want to zoom out for a second as our players get ready. As you can see, the keys here. So far, Flash Wolves have crushed Fanatics. 1 and of course Twisted Minds. No keys crushed for Aegis so far. We've seen it's a very huge moment for the teams when that happens. Aegis are so close to getting it for the first time. You can see they're feeling pretty relaxed on the, on the Wolves side of things. You see they're meditating, they're taking the moments to reset themselves. This is a high pressure situation.
I love how just as you said, let's zoom out for a second, the camera violently zoomed in on the Flash Wolves key. Perfect timing there. All our cameramen and production being on top of their game. They are also the cash-out trait when it comes to broadcasts. But looking at Lides, looking at this team from Aegis, we saw Paul saying it. Yes, Lides is our MVP when it comes to the AVP. Yes, he has been the best performing player in the grand sample size of 5 games of TFT. But we all have what it takes individually to rise up and take the mantle Lides is leaving behind. Opal, we saw with the GP game plan. Yes, he didn't hit GP3. He didn't look like the strongest player to win it out. We will never know. The game ended quite soon. But he did preserve so much HP. He bullied so many players. He took down Kebaba to very low HP, punished him for low rolling his roll down on 4-2. So just great game plan from all of Aegis. But Flash Wolves also have great players. They've proven a lot. They've beaten great teams. It's their time to stand up and prove what they're worth.
And honestly, from my side of things, what I'd really like to see is something very different from what we saw in Game 1. We noted it repeatedly. Aegis, they had multiple members in the top 4 for most of the game. They just gave themselves such an incredible position to operate from long term. We've seen games like that flip around where maybe there's not enough, to be shared up at the top, but in terms of strategic options, I think, from Aegis' side of things, they're a team that can take advantage of having enough space to do what they want to do rather than being pressed back by the Wolves.
And the difference maker there, I think, was Gobo. When you're looking at someone like Lires's spot on the Jin reroll, looking at Opal's spot, it is understandable that if they have marginally good hits, they're able to stabilize stage 3. Potable is the X-Factor player. He can go 8th, he can go 1st. We'll find out in stage 5 usually. But Gobo is the fast 8 AP player who usually, like Kebaba, is coming into stage 4 on very few lives and about to die. Gobo came into stage 4 very healthy off of a high tempo AP start with a 5 win streak in stage 2. And this is exactly what allowed Kebaba to go 8th and Gobo to end up being the one knocking out that 3rd Flash Wolves player with that Swain barely surviving.
Well, say you're on the Flash Wolves side of things here, and we see Aegis trying to go for the same kind of play again. What do you feel like is the right reaction to that kind of play to actually overcome it rather than getting run over?
Sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes it's just TFT because you have set roles. If everyone on Flash Wolf decides to roll on stage 3 and play for a reroll and stabilize, great, you'll preserve HP, but then who's winning the game? No one. You're sacrificing your endgame cap for immediate power. So the difference sometimes is variance, either in augments, either in early upgrades in stage 2, where Gobo is able to coast to a 5 win streak without necessarily rolling on stage 2. He's still playing for fast 8, and Kebaba is not able to do so. And it's also the min-max, the positioning in stage 2 and 3, the fights where you're barely able to win by 1 unit and then preserve more HP that way, the min-max in terms of maybe making a worse tempo slam for the late game, but something that preserves HP early. So TFT in this setting, with how good all of these players are and how evenly matched their skill levels are, it's the small things.
I mean, of course, we'll be keeping a close eye once we do get into Game 2 on what options are there for the Flash Wolves. Looks like our players are getting slowly ready to jump into things. Remember, of course, this is the last game of the day. Let's get it going. So Prismatic 3rd Augment. So we're pretty free and easy for most of this game to hopefully see the Flash Wolves turn things around.
Potable is probably thinking, oh, that's what Zyra looks like. I'll try and find her in my shops in this game as well, potentially. I have to assume if anyone from Aegis is offered a Crystal Gambit game plan, they will take it. And why, do you ask? Because in back-to-back games now in the tournaments, they have found enormous success off of playing this high-risk, high-reward game plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's very proven at this point. And it's so interesting to have been through this entire tournament. Of course, we're all playing on the same patch. With what we came in with expectation-wise, of course, Gangplank remaining a huge part of the conversation, but what has grown up alongside him to make him really much more of a piece of the furniture, but not necessarily the completely defining part.
Ironbog has a Lucian 2 offered, but he also has a Lulu offered for a very rare Smolder game plan. And he also has 3 Soul Fighters with the 3-cost Soul Fighter in Viego as well. This is the player we just talked about. He likes playing off meta. He likes playing the lines that no one else is playing, especially from high tempo spots, to find success with it. We'll see if he tries to go for that Inferi purchase. He doesn't. He wants to make 10 instead and play for the more traditional Lucian 2, which fits perfectly into both GP reroll as well as a Sorcerer line.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a pretty solid setup here for Ironbog. So we know how powerful Lucian can be, especially itemized early on to punch through and make sure everything stays nice and toasty. Of course, we're looking across the rest of the field. We're seeing if any other spicy picks are coming. Of course, the crew was part of the conversation before. We'll see if Apal does end up with enough of them to tempt him that way.
Many teams were able to find great success with the crew. Many teams tried and then failed and went 8th or 7th, bleeding out with the crew. We'll see, because Opal has Lires on his team. He has maybe the master of the crew as a comp with insane results. Maybe he knows something that other players do not. Gold augment to start things off on 2-1 for all of our players.
Yeah, we'll see if anyone's going to be tempted to try and push themselves into committing one way or the other. Certainly, Apal. Got certainly some options which are pushing towards. I'll say.
There we go.
I just said solo leveling the second I saw it because I was like, all right, well, I guess we know where we're going.
This is a big deal, and I assume it will be the pickup for Opal, despite not having maybe the best unit for it just now.
Gobo's gone for solo leveling himself.
And that's because on the 2 other sides, you have item augments, which you need usually an upgraded unit to really make best use of, as well as combat power augments with Crown's Will. It will be the Crown's Will in the end for Opal here. Solo leveling and just overall econ augments are so strong because you really, in this set, need econ to make your comps work, to have enough gold to reroll with, to have enough gold to make it to fast 8 with cleanly. Okay, Bao. Maybe he'll have a chance to move off of the Sork line and into an AD reroll line instead. Knuckle Dusters Vi, which we did see target griefed earlier in this tournament. Sang Yup tried to play it from ROC, and it failed miserably because this is a snowballing reroll line. You need the Vi to get the 2-star as soon as possible. You need to itemize her, and you need to start farming loot for you.
Yeah, I think I was really surprised when I first read it as well, with the drop rate being, I believe, 50% on each kill she makes. So if you talk about swinging, if you can get that off to the races, then you can just go absolutely crazy. I can certainly see why a team would focus on trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But we'll keep our eyes across the board as these things develop. YYDM here has managed to get himself a strong early start. If we were talking about the idea for the Flash rules, needing to get a little bit more presence early on and preserve HP, this seems like a good way to do it.
2-trick going to be the option here for YYDM with an early power-up on Kabuko as a main tank here. Not much DPS coming in, but maybe Kabuko himself kind of can be the damage and the tank. 2 Vi's in the shop. Ideally, you would buy and sell them, but of course, there's no rolling happening just yet, so not going to interfere with Kebabao's game plan.
Sorry, solo leveling Gangplank, sure. That seems completely reasonable. So something we did see before, of course, admittedly in this case we don't have a double solo leveling team, but of course incentivizing teams to play a little bit stronger to stop the solo leveling player from just running over the early boards.
And this is the strongest option for solo leveling for reasons that should be obvious, but just in case our viewers need the help. Gangplank, if he gets all the kills, he's not just getting the XP from the augment, but also getting the gold. No other units on the board can just take away the kills from Gangplank itself on your own team, so you're guaranteeing you have the highest chance possible to farm gold. No item slams yet for the Gangplank, unfortunately. You had an open rod and a belt, but he can find a Sterax or a Rage Blade on this next carousel and then maybe try and continue farming.
And worth the wait being picked up here from Ironbog's side of things. So we've got ourselves a good early amount of presence as well. Just a small note on Gobo as well, that solo leveling had stretchy arms already for the Gangplank, so we're expecting to see big things from him again in the early going. But Ironbog's going to be playing out a couple of these Malphites to make sure he's got as strong as frontline as possible, as Kebaobao will combine the Smolder and the Vi. This is going to be something special.
And from Sangyup, and I believe one other player not playing Knuckleduster, but playing a traditional version of Vi, we saw the pairing with Kaisa being the option for having a backline carry. Usually it tends to be Ashe in the late game, but in this case, if you're rerolling, you might as well reroll for a backline carry as well. The early Smolder opens up that possibility for Kebaobao. The only thing is that it's a little bit awkward because you want to invest your items, no matter what they are, even if it's a Rage Blade, onto your Vi early on to farm loot. But if you're not investing items onto Smolder, you're delaying his level up, you're delaying his takedowns to get more XP for the monster trainer. So it's a little bit awkward, but I think still a cohesive game plan for Kebaobao for now.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be too minding if that did end up being binned off for a different choice later on. But we'll keep an eye out. Again, Kebaobao has a chance to go off absolutely huge here. Taking a look across the rest of the boards. Oh, we'll take a break from that for a second then instead. David, anyone else you want to bring into the conversation here from what we've been talking about so far?
Potable with the Rabadon augment with the deadlier caps. He's going to be playing for Prodigies for the same reason that if you see a Shojin Slam in Stage 2, it can't be Prodigies because you already have mana regen from your traits. The same reason you don't want to play Rabadon into Sorcerers because they already get a lot of AP from the trait itself. They want crit and they want mana regen with Shojin. So guaranteed most likely to be either a reroll line, which is very unlikely, not many strong AP reroll lines in the meta right now outside of Katarina. Most likely will be a Prodigy line from Potable, so switching the script from Crystal Gambit into a more consistent level 8 comp.
Well, certainly he'll get the chance to scale up as the game goes forward. We'll see about popping in on the other side there. Looks like he's actually got a pretty decent start. Of course, Bog has kind of skewed the early game boards by now having a Malphite 3 in Stage 2, so should be able to stand up pretty low. Though, as I am seeing this, I'm actually seeing that the Malphite 3 is getting ripped to pieces. I think it's going to be very tight on the tail end, but that Rabadon is getting stacked. That is a massive hit from the Syndra.
Just from seeing that fight play out, I already know what power-up Potable has. It is going to be a Rising Chaos on that Syndra, rising her damage numbers up and up in a longer fight, which is what Malphite offers you, of course, with the stall power on that main tank. Good spot for Ironbog, though. No longer going to be the creative forecast player on Stage 4. Instead, he is forced to play the crew, and he has one of those conditional augments that enables the comp to do so well. We've seen Build-A-Bud Sivir be the instant 3-star crew member to allow you to get the extra XP from each of your roles. Now we have the little bit more work being put into it, but the 3-star Malphite now found in Stage 2 with Worth the Wait, allowing you to get a huge econ lead with the crew and giving you a much better chance of, one, preserving tempo by leveling to 6 a little bit earlier, while also having a chance to find that 3-star Sivir and then get your free rolls every turn.
It's kind of wild to be in a situation where, yes, otherwise you'd have to invest in Prismatic to get to this point. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Ironbog will show us in this game. You can see, he's even playing the extra Malphites out on the board. I think against anyone apart from Pardabol, he's in an otherwise insurmountable position.
This Malphite saying, don't talk to me or my breakdancing rock son ever again. As we see them both enter the arena here. It is likely that until you get a stronger board, you might just be playing 2 Malphites, a Malphite 3 and a Malphite 2 on this board. Malphite just a very tanky rock, actually, very cohesive to his lore in terms of buying time for Sivir and its early Ziggs to deal a whole lot of damage. Opal, as we kind of expected with the Crown's Will and without many upgrades, going to be on a 5 loss streak. He will likely be that fast 8 AP player for AEGIS, and is going to have a hard time trying to stabilize.
Well, if we're looking for contrast from Game 1, it was one that was defined by AEGIS occupying the top 4, top 3 spots for a huge amount of it. If you want to see something different, the Flash Rolls have actually made it happen. They are doing much, much better on the AP front, or the HP front rather. Hopefully they'll pick up some AP as well along the way, but they've kept themselves up and pretty economically afloat while keeping their HP strong.
A lot of it comes down to augments. We talked about it. Sometimes you just high roll, you low roll your variant in Stage 2 in terms of your upgrade, in terms of your augments that you found. This is a very strong spot for Ironbog. It can become a win-out spot if things go right. For Kebaba with a Vi Hero augment, if he's able to hit on pace, that could also be a win-out spot in terms of how much Vi can snowball. So we'll see what Aegis can do in response. For now, 2-star Gangplank on 3-1 thanks to that solo leveling from Gobo. Gobo will prio playing Vi's on his board as a Juggernaut to try and contest and grief the Vi's from the Vi Hero augment that Kebaba is sporting. And for Opal, we're seeing now perfect items for Karma, but we'll see how much HP he will lose on his way there throughout this Stage 3.
I was wondering what was going to be happening with the Gangplank itemization, but as you can see, it's very good indeed. Won't be able to survive and pick up the last bit of gold, but I think Gobo's ready to abandon that
very good
loss
loss
streak.
here, actually, killing a lot of units.
Yeah.
Pretty good for Opal to, yes, he loses this fight against Gobo, but he's able to, at the very least, preserve some HP.
And I have to assume that that's what's been going on for Opal off screen for a little while. As we go from gold into gold, remember we have Prismatic as our final augment, and it looks like YYDM wants to go for the gold injection.
He will be the GP player most likely, carrying the Kaisa for now, but I assume the moment he finds a GP2, this Kaisa will be sold, and the GP will be itemized simply because he just wants to farm gold with this GP, while also trying to contest Gobo on this 2-cost reroll game plan.
I want to point out some of the other bits and pieces that have been creeping in here across the board. One that stands out to me, David, is Opal with the little bodies being picked up. We noticed him as the Lost Streak player from before, so definitely feels like we've got the pieces put in place for a very long-term game plan from him.
Yeah, definitely a fascinating game plan, relying on 4-cost and 5-cost, and allowing the little buddies, the trait bots, as some other people might call them, to elevate the 4-cost to higher highs in Stage 4 onwards. We're seeing the YYDM only Gangplank 1 is saving some of his gold for now, not going to dig too deep, utilizing this Kaisa 2 instead of the power spike. The one downside, I mentioned it, you're not really farming gold, so that small margin of less econ, maybe raining gold, will make up for it. And an early Jarvan find as well could be pivotal. I think Opal will be another good loss, maybe a win, but Ejidai has not procced yet, so I think that's going to be the timing for the Kaisa to win the fight. Yeah, we're seeing it here. The proc.
Ooh.
Oh, never mind. Lucian is an ace when it comes to shooting his shot. And look at that, Opal. That's a very important win. This is the fast state player winning against the GP reroll player, which should be the player stabilizing in Stage 3. So it seems not consequential, but when their players are down to 1 life in Stage 4 or 5, this could be the win that matters. We're talking about before, the small little things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's certainly disappointing in the sense of losing out on the lost streak money, but a little bit of extra HP, you're absolutely right, could go a long way. Bao does get the upgrade for the Knuckle Dusters via, again, a 50% drop loot rate if she gets the kills in. Gonna have that Smolder as backup as well. The backup dancers to make sure that both of them are hitting on tempo. We'll see. Cabalbo so far hasn't really managed to get off roaring to the races, but perhaps this upgrade will change things.
As fun as this augment looks as a caster, it's just too much debate with the Pandora's Bench. I do not agree with the addition in set 15.
It should be on the left-hand side. That would make life a lot
should
easier.
be maybe in the middle, just to make players have to do. Some players like having their upgrade units on the right or on the left. The middle would really throw a wrench in everyone's game.
I mean, if you want to go fully thematic, just change it every single round.
Oh, that's a little bit too much APM to ask from our TFT players, but it is going to be a win here from the Smolder. Oh, it's going to be a kill on Smolder, but yeah, a win against YYDM. One more thing to make note of, Potable is win streaking, and he is the Prodigy Fast A player. We just talked about that in Game 1. Gobo was the Sork player, the Fast A player. He entered Stage 4 with a lot of HP. This is a big advantage for Potable. So, and not just that, he has a scaling augment with the deadlier caps on this Syndra Rising Chaos. So this is really good news for Potable as one of these all-star players for Aegis, really carrying a big load.
I think it might have been you who specifically pointed out in the previous days that, of course, the death cap, which is gaining in power, can be transferred across to other units. So you're building out your long-term potential as well. You want to take a moment to recognize Lyris as well in the bottom left there, also picking up the Vice as part of his setup there. I mean, this is again exactly to the French style. They will find a player and they will absolutely obliterate their champion pool.
And I'm a huge lover of this Knuckle Duster augment. It's done a lot for me on my ladder climb in set 15. I just think it's fun and it's just really, really good if you end up snowballing that buy. In 4v4, I understand why some players have been, not picking it. I think if you don't snowball, it becomes a disaster. And Sangyup, especially yesterday, we saw how the opponent's team was able to starve him of buys, and he just was never able to get his game plan together.
Well, I mean, we kind of put that together with Gangplank, for instance, of being, Gangplank 2 sufficient for purpose. In this case, the Vi 2 really not going to compare remotely at all. But Caballo was sitting there quite happy, as Apal will, of course, be heating himself towards the bottom. Remember that little bodies, the long-term potential of Aegis will be locked in for the time being. Lyris, of course, not exactly on very much more HP than Apal is, but with a more present danger to the rest of the board.
And the problem comparing Vi to, this is evil from Riot Games. Potable, our Crystal Gambit player, now finds a 1% Zyra on 7 when he doesn't have the chance to play for 7 Crystal Gambit, and it is just looking at him straight in the eyes. It does not fit on the Prodigy board at all, I would assume. Maybe for now he can fit it in, but I think the synergies are too good here. It is just comical to see it offered here for Potable. Going back to the comparison, Vi and GP. GP, when you're holding GP, is to grief. Most boards can't fit GP outside of some rounds in stage 3, so you just have dead gold that you're holding on your bench. Whereas Vi, as a frontline tank, you can fit onto many different boards, so it's much easier to grief her while also getting value from her on your board.
I do want to take a moment again to acknowledge our wonderful production for telling us how many Zyras
9 out of 9. And Potable will not make that number change at all, it looks like.
I was sure he was going to buy it and sell it just out of annoyance. But, I mean, to be fair, Potable doesn't exactly have a whole lot to be annoyed about right now. He's on a 7-round win streak. You mentioned the Rising Chaos. We've got the Rabadon stacking as well. Everything seems to be going great for him right now. Even though he's the only Aegis member in the top 4, in fact, the top 5, this part of the game plan is going well. We do need to see, the development of a late game potential for the rest.
No. Mortdog, please. A second Zyra in back-to-back shops for the player who just was not able to find a single Zyra last game. Looking for 7 Crystal Gambit, a 0.6% chance to find it back-to-back. I don't even want to calculate there. We're casters, of course. We cannot do math live on air, but that is absolutely insane to see here for Potable.
Wonderful. Honestly, I would see it the other way around. I feel like it's a tribute act from the game to say, you know what, you did a great job without a Zyra last time round. She's just coming by to say hello and say, you're doing a great job so far, Potable. So let's kind of take in some of the piece again. So Potable doing great right now.
He buys it. A third 5 cut. This one actually favors his comp. He finds a Seraphine on level 7. 3 1% chances. And this one, the third, is the good one finally. Seraphine is found.
Now, yeah, well, I mean, it means 5 Prodigy is immediately reachable. And considering we've got immediately the Rabadon's already stacked up, and that's going to be extra healing coming through again. Thank you very much for production for letting us know just how unlikely this whole thing was. They do the maths for us. But, all right, Potable this is a moment. You're in the quarterfinals. You really want to get to the semis. You get the gift from the game. You've just got to keep making it work.
Do you have enough front line? That's the big question. The back line looks pristine. The traits look pristine, but do you have enough front line with just this Nico holding onto double stoveplane? You finally add the belt now as well. If he can continue this win streak, and if he can make it to where he finally rolls on level 8, finds a Yuumi, finds a Leona, finds the upgrades, he is in a spot to become the win-out player. And he also picked up Spirit Link, a kind of dead augment now, very little value. He has 95 HP, but an augment that scales him into the late game to maybe make Yuumi a win-out comp. So insane spot from Potable here.
I mean, I think that's exemplifies it perfectly. If you can afford to take, if you're in such a good position, you can afford to take an ornament that's not relevant right now, then you'll do it. But Prismatic Finale is here. For the Flash Wolves, they really need to find a way to bring themselves back into the conversation pretty harshly.
Call to Chaos, I believe it was XP for Opal. He was hoping for Sniper's Focus, obviously with a potential Gwen high roll. Instead, he goes straight to 9. He is now holding Seraphines, maybe because he knows that Potable only needs one Seraphine, kind of a trait bot now in the Prodigy line, and trying to hold the high roll Seraphines from the opposing Yuumi player. But a Gwen has been found. No karmas. We have skipped level 8. We've gone to 9. We're playing around 5 cost instead, with Braum being added to the board as well. Lucian, thank you for your service, but I think this will be the end of his road. Items probably swapped to Gwen for now. And both players looking very scary here from Aegis, although Potable has only found a single Yuumi, no Leonas, still sitting on 30 gold.
If I don't miss my guess, I always struggle with these particular ones. I believe that's Tomb Raider?
I believe so, but this is a very little picked augment. So. I think so. It's an augment that you can only pick when you're very high up in the HP totals, which Potable is. And this is why he's not rolling. He knows he has no combat power from his third augment. He has no combat power kind of from his second augment from Spirit Link, or very little at least. He is playing for the true Giga win-out. He is not playing for the fast state stabilization. He is allowing some of these players to get knocked out, and then he will have a bigger power spike with more gold, either on 4-5 or on 5-1.
So just for clarity on the Tomb Raider there, we'll get a completed item and then another one every time from a choice from the players as they get eliminated. So, I mean, in terms of long-term future, we can kind of ignore Potable for a while, because pretty much, he's locked in for this game, and we really should be turning our eyes to the rest of the field. Ironbug, of course, has been quietly accumulating the crew ever since that worth await Malphite. We've got Sivir backfield as well, close to Shen 3, and it looks like, wait, are we actually going to be going for a Malphite 4 here?
The one thing to consider here, Potable fantastic, but look at the rest of the HP totals. 3 players from Aegis in the bottom, 3 right now. YYDM on his signature Call to Chaos into Sniper's Focus for the second time in this tournament. He is now making a statement. I'm here to win this game. I'm here to be the win-out player for Flash Wolves, the win-out player they need to bounce back in this series to make it a Game 3. Incredibly strong combination we're seeing here from the Gangplank. Doesn't have to even move, doesn't need Edge of Night, full damage potential.
And when you say win-out player, David, we've got to recognize that winning out player doesn't necessarily even mean going first in the lobby. It means, cutting through the rest of Aegis, pushing them into the bottom 3 and saying, even Potable, if you are strong enough to deal with me, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I think he's going first. I think I meant more just going first, because this is an incredibly strong combination.
Fair enough, fair enough.
As strong as it would be on Vi. Very interesting pickup from Kebaba. It seems like he needed such stability that he's picked up a Juggernaut Circlet, which is on paper a very weak augment to pick up after the changes to the crowns and the Circlets coming into the last few sets. Triple Call to Chaos from 3 of our players. These players like their fiestas. These players like to let the RNG take the wheel.
Oh my gosh. So let's look into the mirror once again. And let's see if we can find ourselves Go-Mister with the 2 Snipers Focus on his Gangplank 3. So we've got ourselves a very spicy late game potential coming in. Again, Aegis are low on HP, but Opal will break into the top 4 for the first time in quite some time. So even if he didn't end up with the Snipers Focus, Aegis, at least the bottom end of Aegis, are starting to show more power.
Opal finds that Karma now, starts to itemize. This is the thing he was missing. He's facing off. Yes, I believe it's one of his, it's going to be YY. No, this is not YYDM, I think. It's no Sniper's Focus. Unless he's benched him. But it will just be the other GP player in this lobby. And it should be a clean win. It looks like here the GP has been targeted. Yeah, it's going to be a decisive win. It is YYDM, so he has benched, I believe, the Sniper's Focus.
Okay, so let's start gathering the pieces here, because from the Flash Rules side of things, because again, things are looking pretty good for Aegis right now. Haruru will drop down into last place. So hopefully we can get a chance to drop across to them, because down to 24 HP, you know, any Flash Rules player that drops out on the bottom floor, again, narrows the window of opportunity to go for an early elimination for the Flash Rules on Aegis.
Okay, Bao here, he is relatively stable, 45 HP for now, but Knuckle Duster's Vi has been target griefed yet again. Only 4 copies of this Vi for now, only 5 copies of Smolder, and a fairly weak Prismatic. I don't see where this game plan will be going once the rest of the board start really stabilizing. We see Potable has now rolled down to 0 on 4-5, I assume, has found the Leona, has found the Yumis, is now trying to become that stable player for Aegis.
I suppose, yeah, what we're seeing a little bit of there from Kababo, because I think, again, recognizing that he's not going to be able to hit the Vi 3, has built for tankiness as well. As we've got a little glimpse that maybe if the Vi can access the back line, those are the kind of units she can punch through. She's not spec to really bust through the tanks.
Another Leona. Look at the defense. The entire bench full, just denying so many different game plans. Finally gives up some of them and finds that Yumi 2 upgrade, potentially a Seraphine 2 as well on level 8. Really insane chops from Potable in terms of the 5 costs.
Oh, very, very nice indeed. And do remember, of course, the Tomb Raider is not far away from kicking in 24 and 20 HP for the Flash Rules members at the bottom. Potable can conceivably end up with more items than he can reasonably even use on his board. And we've got, of course, a lot of Prodigies who don't normally get itemized, but when you've got ones to spare, you can certainly make use of them.
Okay, Balbal's roll down here, maybe trying to find that last little bit of power. He's sitting on 6 copies of Vi for now, continuing to roll. 36 gold to work with. It is still possible, of course. You might have to give up on Mundo to do so, but no, yeah, you have to make the Mundo 3 regardless to make him a main tank. Probably items will transfer over. Maybe, yeah, you give up on the Vi instead because you're very close to the Smolder. So close to everything, actually. And tragic to not hit really any of the bigger power spikes. Items gonna be onto Mundo. I think it's the correct play to make by not having the power up on him.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's still going to make a massive difference one way or the other. We do see the Cassante board coming together from the other side from Lyris. Haven't seen him for a little while, but that is a fantastic option to bring in. We can see already that Cassante is just ripping through the board. Probably one of the few tanks he might actually have trouble with, but the Akali makes that not even an issue.
Lides was playing around the griefing duty on stage 3. He was indicating he might be playing for the Mundo Juggernauts alongside the Kaisa reroll, but quickly pivoted off into a better option once he got Sword Overflow as his Prismatic Augment. It really cleaned up his items to be able to itemize both the Akali with the red buff and the Pyromaniac, as well as the Deathblade and the IE and the Edge of Night on the Cassante.
Well, what we can see on the left-hand and right-hand side of the screens, and just about to shout out as well, it's, you know, if the game plan for the Flash Rules was to try and push Aegis out early, that is not happening right now. They've got multiple members of very low HP, and Aegis have managed to have the members escape from the bottom 4. Now they've got, I believe, 2, maybe even more in the top 4, and we might even be seeing an elimination this round.
Compare the Sork spots. Opal with the level 9 off of the Call to Chaos XP, just looking so much stronger than this Sork emblem on the Rise. It makes Rise strong and a big part of the comp, yes, but I think it's just not strong enough as a cap. Okay, Bao with the Smolder 3 now up against this Sork player from Haruru on his own team. And potentially Smolder will win the fight here with a few more casts. The Karma, it's a 1v1. It's going to be a very small loss. Is it small enough? No. Haruru taken down for Flash Wolves in 8th place. And YYDM, I believe, has also been taken down here. A repeat of game 1.
Oh boy, I mean, this is disaster territory. So the Flash Rules have to take a total of 29 HP and bring it to a first place. With Potable again, Tomb Raiding will get 2 extra items as a result of that. Makes him pretty much untouchable. But Gobuster, Opal, and Lyris, they're all in the top 4 right now.
And one correction to make. Earlier on when we saw the Call to Chaos, I misspoke. It is Gobo that got those snipers focused. It wasn't YYDM, which is why Gobo is now on a 5-win streak. YYDM was on his board at the same time.
Yes, of course.
Which is why we saw the confusion. Yeah, and then we're seeing it now. So YYDM, I thought was going to be the chance to come back into the game, but quite the opposite. It's another stranglehold from Aegis onto Flash Wolves with Gobo hitting a huge high roll for his GP board, and that completely changes the path for both teams coming into stage 5.
Yeah, Kababo and Iron Bog, they are almost out, but at least Kababo has finally started to get this fight online. Unfortunately, it's going to take a chunk out of Iron Bog, and that knocks them out. The game's over then and there. It's another team kill to another series end, and that's going to be it. Aegis, the last hope of Amir, are going to the semi-finals. Weibo Gaming will be waiting for them, but it will be another 2-0 in a day of domination.
Disappointing finish from Flash Wolves. Disappointing teamwork at the end there. Bao grinding for his upgrades all game long. He finally hits them. Matchmaking not going his way. Back-to-back teammates that he eliminates single-handedly. I don't think they even had the HP to trade though regardless. So all in all, just a terrible ending result for Flash Wolves there, unfortunately, despite their comeback yesterday, despite their great play across the entirety of the tournament. He just seemed too strong, and the curse continues. 2-0 sweeps throughout the entirety of today's quarterfinals.
I mean, let's not talk about curses, but talk about the victory of Aegis here. They've never crushed the key before. They're going to get the chance to now, but honestly, David, as Amir's final hope in the competition, if we had any expectation of them getting to the finals at all, they did need to crush through the competition here in the quarters. And honestly, from where I'm standing, that's exactly what they did.
A few high rolls we have to say from Aegis in terms of the sniper's focus, in terms of potable shops going into stage 4, but very clean play from the Fast 8 AP player. We're going to hear more of an in-depth breakdown